Kill your darlings. A lot of you probably haven't heard of this expression, but it's something normally used in literature when you're writing. It's the idea that you want to take out the best part of your writing in order to make the rest of the piece stand out. Sacrifice something really good to make the rest more worthy. It's an interesting concept, and I love the way things bleed into each other. But in Magic, you can also use this concept because a lot of the big pitfalls I see with new deck builders is there's just too much shit in the deck. I've helped hundreds of people edit decks online and in real life. And I normally I call it deck doctor. I just splay out someone's deck in front of me. And I normally do it in curve. This is a curve here. You can see all the CMCs in their own columns. You can see 0 and 1 mana, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what does kill your darlings even mean in Magic? Well, sometimes it's really simple. Some decks simply just have too much bloat on the top end. So that'll be too many awesome big cards that are 4, 5, and 6 mana. And it does hurt. I'm not saying it's not going to hurt, but the whole notion of killing your darlings, it kind of implies that, right, you're killing something that you love. By taking out your big 4, 5, 6 drops, you're doing a couple of things. Firstly, you are making your deck more mana efficient because most games only last 4, 5, 6 turns anyway in this competitive format or any format, to be honest. So the fewer bigger cards you have, the smoother your game is going to be, right? It sometimes takes someone to tell you how simple it is to really click and understand. Also, just because you're taking the big things out of this deck doesn't mean you'll never see them again. They'll still be in your collection and you can still use them in other decks. So yeah, the notion of taking out something good, it does hurt. I think as a newer player, it's something that it doesn't really hit you that hard and that fast. But as I said before, a lot of new players, their decks will just be absolutely bloated with like 10 to 20, 4 to 6 drops, even more than that, on especially in 6 or 7 drops, just so many. So how do you figure out which ones to take out? I think the easiest way to determine that is to look at your commander and exactly what your commander wants to do. So in this case, we've got Keranos. So Keranos, we want to break our commander down into a few components. Try and break it down to 2 or 3 bullet points. So Keranos is an enchantment. It cares about the top card of your deck. And it cares about what kind of card you reveal from the top of your deck. So we've got these 3 distillation points we can now use, right? So the deck probably wants to do a bit of scrying, a bit of surveilling, and it might even want to have a few enchantments that are multiple pips. Imagine Mystics only had 3 blue pips. It would turn Keranos into a god much sooner, right? But this doesn't for this example. So yeah, you want to focus on enchantments perhaps, and then big pips, and then scrying. Or even damage performance, enhancing drugs. You can want the drugs, but just modifiers, right? So if any of your top end cards aren't doing that, you have to ask yourself why it's in the deck. And this is why I'm not really a huge fan of just mid-range good stuff power builds, because every deck becomes a bit the same. So once you start honing in on what makes your deck special in about 2 or 3 bullet points, then you can start to think what I could take out. So let's say, for instance, this card, Roaring Furnace and Steaming Sauna. This immediately might not seem useful in this deck, but it is fantastic because firstly, it's a kill spell on the left, draw spell on the right, which is also like a second copy of Keranos in a strange way. It triggers, well, it gives you card draw, it gives you a bit of damage, and it also has a blue pip and 2 blue pips and 1 red pip. So this really does fit the deck perfectly. So I would say this is absolutely awesome. But then, for instance, if we took a look at Chandra. Now, this does come with time and skill, the analytical power to do this. But Chandra doesn't, I don't think, necessarily fit this deck that well, because firstly, she cares about spells. Although Izzet does have a lot of spells, it's not 100% intrinsic to what Keranos needs to do. She exiles the top 5 cards. You can cast any instant sources from them. She deals damage to stuff, and she can add mana to help you play the stuff. So don't get me wrong, she's absolutely fantastic, and she is in the deck because I've managed to whittle it down from even more. You'll see I've got 100 here, but I probably started with 120 cards, or even more. Some people have 200, which is ridiculous. But you could argue that Chandra doesn't fit the bill, and she's a darling that you need to kill. That rhymes. My point is, just because something looks good doesn't mean it is. And I know it's meant to be a fun format. It should be. But frankly, deck building gets harder every set because new cards come out every single set for you to determine if they're worthy of entry into your deck or not. So, keep the analytical part of your brain on and think, if you can't cut a deck down to 100 cards, just look at the chaff or look at the good stuff. You can work from either way, but yeah, that's just the concept of killing your darlings. It's a pretty short video essentially, but I just wanted to showcase that deck building can be made easier. It is very difficult, but you know, you have to use every tool to your advantage, and maybe watching this video can actually give you a hint of what to do. We could go through a million and one examples, but yeah, the idea is, if the card in the deck does not resonate with your commander, you have to ask yourself, why is it in there? And I would ignore stuff like rocks, like arcane signets, anything that helps you ramp. Ramp is just generically good, but any other spell that doesn't really service your commander, you have to ask yourself, why is it in there? And I hope that helps some of you to craft better decks, easier, faster, stronger. And you know what? This last part surprises me. I asked a few people how they build decks, and a lot of people say from scratch each time. And I think that is quite time consuming, and it will lead you down a lot of pitfalls, like forgetting good staples in the deck. I would take a deck you already had. Let's say you already had a blue-red deck. Just copy it, rename it Blue Deck 2, Blue-Red Deck 2, and then just slowly, one by one, remove pieces that you don't think fit, and then put in the new commander or put in the new thing. Now, obviously, it only works if it's the same colours. If you don't have an example deck of a deck you need, just copy one of mine or someone else's, net deck the initial deck. And if you don't have the cards for it, just swap them out for the cards you have and the cards that you think would fit and synergize well with your commander. So remember, distill your commander down to 2 or 3 points of what you want to do. Put things in that complement that. Anything else, just forget about it, because there's just too many cards in the game to worry about. 25, 30,000 cards. So yeah, kill your darlings. See how that goes. If you want to see more tips, just give me a shout in the comments below. And yeah, until next time, guys. Did you know that you can help my channel by watching another one of my videos? Go ahead, you want to.